Do you feel behind in life? Have you missed life's milestones? Amen. Hey everyone, it's Rushni of glamazini.com, bringing you light and laughter per usual. I am a content creator. I am a special needs mom. I am a healing journey coach for Black and West Indian women, and I am a Black woman healing. I create humor filled healing spaces so that other Black women can heal too. You are very welcome. Okay. Today, I am 40% human, 60% blob. Okay. According to the new period app that I downloaded. So I am moving in slow motion, baby. Ooh, I like it like that. She working that back. Don't know how to act. It's too early in the call, Rushy. Wait. But today's topic hopefully is going to be a good one. Yesterday, I woke up and felt like somebody had unplugged my battery. And I looked in the period app and was like, oh, that's what's going on. And I'm trying a new period app today. And it literally said to me, you are 40% human and 60% blob. So take it easy. Well, you don't have to tell me that more than once. Thank you very much. Anyway, if you're watching, wherever you're watching from, drop a pineapple emoji in the chat because I don't know if you can see behind me, but I kind of like pineapples. They make me happy. And also tell me where you are watching from. I am live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Twitter X just bumped me out at the beginning of this because I don't know, maybe they keep changing the criteria. So maybe I can't go live on Twitter. But if you're watching, let me know location wise where you're watching from and make sure you drop a pineapple in the chat. If you're watching this on the replay, hey, you, okay, make sure you drop a pineapple in the chat and tell me in the comments and tell me where you're watching from there too. So, anyway, today's video is inspired by a video I did recently about grieving the life that you expected, right? I find that whenever I talk about that topic in my coaching membership, when I talk about that topic in my Facebook group, when I talk about that topic here on Kendrick Lamar's internet, it's a topic that a lot of people resonate with because apparently many of us feel like we are experiencing grief for a life that we expected to go one way and somehow it's gone a whole different way. Okay. And so, this topic about do you feel left behind? Have you actually missed life's milestones? Is just me out here chopping it up, thinking aloud, and hopefully providing some insight to one, normalize the fact that many of us feel this way, and two, what we could do about it. Like, let's conceptualize what we can do about it. And let's make this a conversation. So, if you have any thoughts about this, let me know in the comments. Do you feel like you're left behind? Do you feel like you've missed life's milestones? If so, let me know what milestones you think you have missed and why. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do was actually establish what I mean by do you feel like you've missed life's milestones and what those milestones are. Okay. In the Grieving the Life That You Expected video, I remember that Marissa Price, who is a social worker and a healer, she mentioned, I don't know if it was that video or the time before, but she mentioned that it's almost like we all have this list of perceived milestones that we are supposed to hit at a certain time in our life. And if we don't hit those milestones, something's wrong. Something's wrong with us. Something's wrong with our life. The whole thing is veering off into the bushes, and we begin the grief process and the lamentation. And in that video, in the Grieving the Life That You Expected video, which I forgot to put in the information box, but I will put at the end of this, I said that I believe that grief, one, us being set up with this like pre-made list of perceived milestones that we were either told outright or that we just picked up by living in this society is part of the problem. And that perceived list becomes a prison by which we bump our lives up against. And that makes us not even conceptualize that life could and will go entirely differently. Hi, Southern Rose Tia D. Hello. I am moving like I'm in slow motion. Okay. I'm not going to start singing the juvenile song again because I already did that. So, first of all, let's talk about these perceived milestones so we can all level set. I have a few of them written out here, but if you can think of something a milestone in life that you just knew you were supposed to hit, or you knew you were supposed to hit, and or you were told outright, or you just thought you were, put it in the comment section wherever you're watching. So this is my list, okay? Clearly, at first you're born. You're supposed to go directly into the school system, right? You're at home for a few years, then you're supposed to go into the school system, right? And you're supposed to go through the school system. And in that school system, you begin being taught how to drop your creativity for the sake of becoming a worker, if I'm being honest. You are taught how to follow rules. You are awarded for assimilation. That sounds weird, but that's what I mean. Listen, I'm tired. So the way it comes out is how it's going to come out. Okay. Before you went into school, you were drawing purple horses with 17 legs and imagining magical fairylands while you played. And when you got into school, they told you horses are brown, they're not purple. And they told you horses only have 4 legs, they don't have 7, and your fairyland is imaginary. So they just started part of the school system is to shave off all of that creativity and the wandering, the imagination, the power that your imagination gives you to create and innovate that you came into the world with. School does that. And then it also teaches you what you need to know to become a worker. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Like I said, I'm moving slow. So we all go through that. And then in that space of the school system, we all learn, or we all are supposed to, quote unquote, heavy on the quotes, fit into certain categories that happen in the schools, right? So you become like the cheerleader group, or you become the pretty girl group, or you become part of the nerds, or you become part of the band kids, or you become part of the jocks, or you become part of the, right? And with all of those identities, there are all of these preconceived boxes that you fit in. Hi, Latina. I'm moving in slow motion, but I'm here. Hey, y'all. So that's part of schooling, right? And those are the milestones. And those milestones are celebrated, right? And then around age 18-ish, right? The first numeric milestone, I mean, there are other ones, but I'll just go with 18. All of us are supposed to graduate from high school. No deviation from that. All of us graduate from high school around 18. And all of us are apparently supposed to immediately go into a 4-year college, right? This is like the conveyor belt. You know how if you watch my videos in the past, the perceived milestones is also what I call the conveyor belt that we're all put on at a certain point. And that many of us are trying to redefine and or entirely jump off of. Okay. And so by 18, you graduate high school. By 22, you're supposed to have finished your 4-year degree and graduated, period. Yeah. Next milestone is apparently right after college. You are supposed to know and start a good career that this college set you up for, right? In doing so, you're supposed to be able to pay for all of your expenses on your own, get an apartment, purchase a vehicle, all of this around 22 to 23. The next milestone is somewhere, and I'm talking about women especially right now, okay? Somewhere in that space, right after college, you get a job. Somehow in there now, you're supposed to get you a man, okay? And somewhere between before age 30, you got to get a man, right? That's the next milestone because you know what's coming next, right? You need a man, and now you guys have to buy a house, right? Round about somewhere in the late 20s, in the 30s, you guys got to buy a house. That's the next milestone, right? And then after you got your man, you got your degree, you got your house, you got your high school diploma, you have your 1 to 2 vehicles, right? And all of the trappings of the milestones, then you gotta pop out kids, ladies, before 35, okay? Um, so the next mile, if you're behind, you haven't done these things. I hope you guys realize I'm being facetious. I'm moving slow, but I'm being facetious because I'm just telling you, allow the perceived conveyor belt that many of us are bumping ourselves up against. So by 35, you have these kids, right? Hopefully you have 2.5 and some sort of picket fence, right? And a Labrador. Or nowadays, a lot of people have a cane corso. Okay. You grab you a dog, and then you get all these kids, and then you pay your mortgage, you work your jobs, you do all the sports things with your children, and you work at your job. And by the time you are 40, right? So by 30, you've been married, you got your house. By 35, you're finished with the kids. By 40, you are excelling in your job. You have climbed some sort of rank in the job, the career you were in, and you are probably in a management position. Because if you're at 40 and you're not in a management position, you're missing these milestones. Okay, get on it. And then you have like 10 years in that management position to really like knock it out the park. Okay, so you got to make sure the kids are like set up for by this point they're getting into high school and middle school and high school, and you're about to send them off into life. So you got to make sure your retirement is fully funded. You got to make sure you're paying this mortgage. You got to make sure you're paying for these cars. Maybe you treat yourself with a different car at this point, right? Maybe you grab a different dog. Somewhere in there, you've done the obligatory family vacations, right? You can afford that, right? That's success. And that's by 50. And at this point, you have your fully funded retirement. And then between 50 to 65, you're planning for the end, right? Because you're going to retire at 65. You're going to send your kids off into the world. And then that's it. So, like, what I just went through is what I could come up with for like the common perceived milestones that I think many of us are told outright that we need to be hitting in life, and or we perceive otherwise for people not telling me. Latina said, I have missed all of the by milestones, top 20 by 20, 30 by 30, 40 by 30. And I don't care. Well, yeah, this is the point of this video, okay? I'm trying to say the quiet thing aloud because I believe this can be an exercise in freedom, right? If we hear, first of all, how tight that conveyor belt is. I mean, if I have it written down so that you can see. 18, 18 graduate, 22 graduate high school, 22 graduate college. 3 years later, by you have 3 years to meet your man. Okay, y'all can date between 25 and 30. Y'all have better gotten married. Okay, because you need the house by 30. You need the kids before 35. Hello? Chop, chop, chick. What you doing? You only got 5 years after that to become a manager. By 35, you only got 35 to 40 to become a manager on this timeline. Sorry, I'm not laughing. And then you only got 10 years after that to like fully fund your retirement account. Get these kids out the house. And then what you gonna do? Are you selling the house? Are you moving to Florida? Like, what's good, girl? What you waiting on? Those time frames used to give you so much anxiety. Southern Rose TD, I don't think that we honestly sit down and think about what we are being told and sold, which is why I went ahead and sat down and told y'all. Okay. Latina said it's a ridiculous time. I mean, think about it. Think about what I just said. I'm looking at it right now. There is 2 to 5 years between every single one of those moves. Every single one of those moves has 2 to 5 years in between them. And of course, they're compounding on each other, right? Because you're not getting, for example, you're not becoming a success in your career by 40 without having to raise these children that you popped out before 35 and nurture this marriage that you got into before 30 and pay this mortgage and pay for these cars and pay for this student loans and right? And here's the thing, I didn't even write this one down, but by the time you get to 65, okay, now you got medical bills for yourself because your body is deteriorating because you ain't been taking care of yourself, okay, because you're so busy doing this other stuff. And you probably have to become a caretaker for your parents. I didn't even write that down. Okay. So there's some more stuff on the conveyor belt that I didn't even think about. Anyway, the point of this video is not to depress the living daylights out of you. The point of this part of the video is to give you some insight into how, as Latina so aptly put it, ridiculous and unrealistic that timeline is. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people that actually hit that timeline. Shoo, I sort of did. Not exactly. I graduated high school at 17. Okay. Because I was the queen of the conveyor belt. You could listen, you couldn't do it like me until I decided I didn't want to do it no more. I graduated high school at 17. I graduated my 4-year college and was out of school by 21, had a full corporate job, an apartment, and a car. All right. I got married at 30, but it wasn't because I couldn't have gotten married earlier. That sounded bad, but you know what I mean. Listen, if I wanted to have been married earlier, I could have been. I just personally didn't want to be married earlier. Okay. So I got married at 30. So that's where I kind of like slid off the conveyor belt by choice because you're supposed to be out the gate. Okay, girl. By 21. I should have been 2 years in, grabbed me a man. Sorry. When I sorry, that sounds so bad. And I should have been popping out them kids in the 20s, according to this conveyor belt. Okay. Your girl didn't do it that way by choice. Okay. And I had the house early 20s. I don't remember when my first house. I've owned multiple houses, you guys. I've flipped homes. Listen, I've owned multiple houses. I don't remember when my first house was. It might have been like 22 or 23. I remember what I do remember, you guys, is sitting in my house, my first house, at like 22 or 23 and thinking, I'm done. What else is there? Like, I did everything they told me to do. This sucks. I remember thinking that. Like, I went to school, I got the car, I got the job, I have the house, I did everything. This is it. That's it. And then my inner child started blowing everything up, but that's a whole nother video. Okay. So Southern Rose Tia D said, whoo, that medical bill interjection is real. This is what I want to, if anybody has downloaded my Getting Unstuck book, which I will go back at the end of this video and add underneath the video in the caption, as well as on YouTube. I think I can actually like attach it to the video. One of the things I talk about in that video is changing not this video, my ebook, Getting Unstuck, creating momentum where there is none. One of the things I talk about in that ebook is challenging this concept of the conveyor belt, because part of why you could be stuck is because you're bumping yourself up against an unrealistic checkbox list of life, and you are unprepared for the realistic and reasonable things that happen in a real person's life, like medical stuff. Because I don't know if you heard that list, but ain't nothing on that list said get pregnant and give birth to a child that has special needs. And this is a tight list, okay? This is a tight list. So when my son had the audacity to interrupt my perfectly little check, I'm playing. He did not, but you know what I mean? And so the next thing I wrote down is, okay, so what Rashni, you've told me that I've missed every milestone. Hopefully I have shown you how tight and honestly unrealistic those milestones are. And here's the other thing. Many of us don't ever stop to ask, do we even want that? Do we even want that? It's like we're just set off on this path of doing the things. That was me. I was just going. And I got them super early, thought it was going to be like super hard to do. and then sat there thinking, I don't want all of this. This is what? So a lot of us don't even have the opportunity to stop and conceptualize what we want our life to look like and what the milestones are for the life we want to create. And I'm starting to wonder if part of, how do I say, it's not a form thought, so let me get it out. I often start to wonder if part of the grinding and difficulty and sorrow that we experience is in part or in full because we are so busy, help God, cultivating and creating a life that's not our own. And so of course it's going to be grinding and sorrowing and horrible because you're literally checking off boxes that aren't your boxes to check off. Okay. So anyway, well, what do we do, Rashni? Well, I don't know, girl. We out here chopping it up. If you have any ideas, put them in the comments. I'm gonna tell you what I wrote in my notes. The first thing I wrote down is ain't no milestones. Let me look in here. That's the camera. The first thing I thought is if you feel like you're left behind in life, if you feel like you've missed life's milestones, I'm so sorry. Number one, I would say normalize that we all get the same messaging, which hopefully I've been clear in illustrating. Number two, acknowledge that there aren't any milestones unless you make them. That's something that I've had to figure out in my 48 little years, as my mother would say, okay? Or big years, as I would say. It's not this big age. Once you acknowledge that you have been fed a cookie cutter assimilation based list to check off that has nothing to do with the you that God created you to be, you can grieve the fact that everybody else goes in the direction of the lemming, potentially over the cliff, but you don't want to go. You can stop yourself from going over the cliff. That's what I think. So it's about reframing the idea that you missed a milestone because you can't miss what's for you. And if you missed it, it wasn't your milestone because that's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. What you miss, how you miss things, is by trying to create something that's not yours. So maybe the fact that you missed it, you should just reframe it into understanding that it wasn't yours in the first place. And then you need to ask the question, what is mine? What are my milestones? And I think that's where a lot of us get stuck. If you've sat here listening to me before, you're sick of me saying it, but I'm going to say it as many times as I have to. A lot of us don't know who we are. So therefore, we are busy, steady, building a life that's not ours. If you've never asked yourself the question of who am I, if you can't answer the question of who am I, go in the information box of this video, download the free workbook. There's a Who Am I Identity workbook. That's an ebook that I made. Me and my sleepy hormonal self right now, okay, is offering you this free gift so that you can start building, creating a life that you want with your own milestone. Surprise! Okay, you didn't miss anything because those weren't yours. Those weren't yours. You see what I'm saying? Those weren't yours. Sue H says, I struggle with feeling like I missed the markers in life. But I trust that everything will happen when it's supposed to happen. Correct. Those markers weren't your markers, boo-boo. That's what I'm here to say, Sue. You missed their markers, not yours. So you need to you need to figure out what your markers are, boo-boo. And the only person that can discern what the markers are in your life is you, because it's yours. So if you missed it, it wasn't for you. And that's what I think a lot of us need to hear to get free. Those weren't our markers. All of us can't have the same markers. That's why I spent so much time on this timeline that I wrote down at the beginning of the video. Y'all see how unrealistic that is? How? I can't even fit into your clothes. How am I going to fit into your milestones? If we are all divinely created as individuals with individual purposes here on this planet, how in the world can all of us reach our purpose potential through the same path? You got to think about it. Okay. It's not a thing. And so unfortunately, we are set off on the conveyor belt, checking off all the same boxes. And most of us are very discontent with what we get checking off those boxes. And you know why? Because it's impossible for all of us to be satisfied checking off a list of pre-canned boxes when all of us are different people. Okay, the next thing I wrote down in kind of like changing your mindset to missing life's milestones and instead creating your milestones, like understanding that that wasn't yours, is to what I just said. Life is not linear. It's not a one size fits all situation. Some of us graduate from high school, then graduate from college, then get married and buy the house and have the kids and get the dog and the cars and the career and the this. Some of us do that. And some people don't. Some people grow up on a houseboat. Some people don't graduate from high school. Some people are homeschooled. Some people are not. Some people graduate earlier from high school. Some people graduate later. Some people go back and get their GED. Some people come straight out of school and go straight to college, do 3 years because they're advanced and go into some specific program. Some people become plumbers. They go straight into a trade school. Some people skip that all together, become YouTubers and make a bunch of money on YouTube and employ people, and they're like 24 years old. Some people want to be seamstresses. So instead of going to college, they go to have an internship with a Broadway production, and then they go to school later to become like a worker, with cloth and seams, or they want to focus on embroidery. So they become that. Some people grow up on a farm. And so they become farmers or homesteaders, or they become ranchers. Some people grow up on a boat. And all of these examples I'm saying aloud are not things I'm pulling out of my head. These are literally people I know in real life and or YouTube channels I watch. Life is not linear. Sometimes some people get the kids first, then the house, then they sell the house, start their business, move their kids to another country, meet the spouse. It's all over the place. So if you are steady trying to check things off and then bumping your satisfaction and joy up against a list, you're wasting time on that part because you're missing out on living. You're listing and not living. You're constantly bumping yourself up against a list that is not yours anyway, instead of just creating and living your own life, which is going to look different and which is going to be not so linear. Okay. The other thing I wrote down is that helps me reframe the idea that I missed out on milestones, as opposed to understanding that I'm actually creating my own milestones, is because my experience is unique and it is diverse for me. The only thing I can do is learn on the journey I'm on, because I'm the one having the journey and I'm the one creating my milestones. So I didn't miss anything. I'm like gaining wisdom to optimize my own checklist. Hopefully that came out right, right? I didn't miss anything. Success on my own path is a self-defined thing. Yeah? Because I could go right now and get another, for example, degree, like academic degree. And I could get the applause of man, and I could get the applause of people who applaud academic degrees, and I could be miserable because it has nothing to do with the internal me that wants that degree for something that's going to create something in the life I'm building, right? So getting a milestone that is somebody else's milestone is honestly a useless endeavor. Stop listing and start living. The next thing I wrote down is, let's see, recognizing that it's never too late. Okay, I have a thought about this that is, let me see if I could get this. I told y'all I'm moving like I'm in slow motion today, but I'm gonna get it out. I'm gonna get it out. Okay. It's like we live from 0 to 18 and we get to be kids. And then for some reason at the year of 18, all of a sudden we're supposed to be able to know everything, which makes no sense because our brain doesn't even finish developing until 25. The prefrontal cortex doesn't even finish like developing. But somehow socially, we're supposed to know everything at 18. We're supposed to know what we want to do with our life, how we want, like we are supposed to know, which is ridiculous. Okay. And then from 18, you guys, to like 35, which is how many years? What's 35 minus 18? What's that? 5, that's 10, 15, 16, 17 years. Okay. You got 17 years from 18 to 35. Okay. Only 10 years if you think about with a fully formed brain. So let's say 25 to 35. You have 10 years with a newly fully formed brain, not even one that's been cranking, to have it all together. And if you make any missteps on those perceived milestones that I told you that happen all before 35, which is at this point, by 35 women, you should have a house, you should have some cars, you should have some kids, you should have a man, you should have a mortgage, you should have a degree, you should have a job, a high school diploma, a partridge, like a sense of personal style, a this, a that, you've had some vacations under your belt. By 35, with 10 years of a fully formed brain. And then from the 35 mark, if all of those things haven't fallen into place, we then can spend 35, you guys, to the end of our life. And I think the life expectancy in the US is like 70 something. Let's go with like 78. Let's do 75 for a round number that's easy for math. Okay, because my brain is slow today. Math is not my thing. So if all them things ain't fallen into place by 35, you gonna spend 35 to 75 lamenting the fact that in the first 35 years of your life, actually the first 10 years of your functioning brain, you didn't get it all together. And I think that that's dumb. I want to say it aloud because I think it's stupid. Okay? I think it's stupid. That's 50 years of life. You get 10 years to get it all together, and then you spend 40 years lamenting the fact, boo boo. Spend them years doing it. It's never too late to start something. Matter of fact, if you get on the internet right now, I promise you can pull up a video with an 18-year-old saying it's too late to do a thing. You can find a video with a 28-year-old saying they're too late to do a thing. You can find a video with a 38-year-old saying it's too late for them to do a thing. You can find a video with a 48-year-old saying it's too late for them to do a thing. You can find a video with a 58-year-old saying it's too late for them to do a thing. You can find a video with a 68-year-old saying it's too late for them to do a thing. You could probably find a video with by 78, hopefully they figured it out. But I mean, you see what I'm talking about? It's never too late. It's too late when you decide to stop. And it's too late when you decide that you are going to be compliant and adherent to a list of milestones that's not your own and that does not serve you in creating the life that you want. Once you realize the first step of healing is awareness, okay? And hopefully this video gives awareness to somebody. Once you realize that conveyor belt don't work and you decide to check out of that conveyor belt, that's when the living begins. You stop listing and you start living, okay? I wrote down another way to reframe the milestones is to realize that it's about quality and not quantity. Checking off boxes gives you social currency, even if you are miserable on the inside. You can get to the end of the check boxes very quickly. I did. Okay. I checked them boxes off so fast because it wasn't hard for me. And listen, I understand that there were privileges in why it wasn't hard for me. I get it. Okay. I'm not saying nothing like I did it all by myself. No. I'm just saying I got there. Like the check boxes were easy. I checked off all the boxes and then I was like, oh, this is it. And I was miserable. Right? So are you weighing the social currency of being able to say you've hit milestones above actually living the life that you want? Meaning, if you were to check off all the boxes right now, you got your degree, you got your college degree, you got your job, your 2.5 kids, your dog, your 2 dogs and a cat, your house in a suburb, your front yard with the Tesla and the more reasonable car, your man and your vacation planned, are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Is that actually what you were supposed to be doing with your life? Or did you just check off all the boxes and end up at the end of this list realizing that this is not your life and you don't want it? Are you looking for the applause of others? Like, was this the dream of your mom or the dream of your dad or the dream of your uncle? And you get to the end of it and you're happy. And, they did the whole like graduation TikTok and reel and everybody's celebrating. And then when you get home, you're sitting there like burdened with student loans and daycare loans and mortgages and car payments, and you feel imprisoned by a life you created. I was just watching a TikTok before this, and he and his spouse, I guess, I don't know, but it was a guy, and he lives like a homesteady life. And the person had asked him, "How do you guys make so much? How do you make money to afford this?" And he was like, "That's the wrong question, because we were living the conveyor belt life basically somewhere in California, and it crashed and burned for them, and they ended up moneyless and having to move out of their apartment." And his wife was like, "What if we blow up this thing? Well, like, what if we blow up our lives?" So they blew up their lives, ended up finding some cheap land, moving, had never done that before, and over time figured out how to live that way. And then eventually last year blew up on TikTok, but they said they had been living that alternative way for since 2012, right? And so he was like, since 2012, the question for them is not how do I make more money, which is a valuable question if you need that, right? He was like, we make less money. We just blew up our lives and got off of the conveyor belt. And that man said from 2012 to today, which is 2024, they have spent $45,000 on living expenses total, not annually, total. What? Which I thought was an appropriate thing for me to see right before I jumped on here, because it's really not about whether you hit the milestones, it's whether or not you actually wanted those milestones. If you wanted to have kids, which some people don't even ask themselves if they want it, they just do it, and you haven't done it yet, can it happen? Does it have to happen the way that you thought it was going to happen? If you still want them and you're still here, there is a possibility that you could still make it happen if you're willing to have a milestone that is different than the checkbox one. I see you guys are commenting and I haven't looked in yet. I'm going to come in a second. The other thing I wrote down about changing the idea of hitting other people's milestones or hitting society's milestones, which is depressing and sorrow filled and unrealistic for the majority of the population. Okay. I mean, look around. Seriously, look around. If you bumped all the people that you know up against a graph, how many of them hit all of those milestone moments exactly and precisely, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video? I'll wait. No, people get disrupted by life. And it's not even a real disruption, it's just life. I think if we all had expectations that things were not going to go exactly a specific way, we would feel less weight, put less weight on ourselves, or what's the word? We would accept less weight that's put on us by others, and we would free ourselves to go and create the lives that we want. Okay, that's what I wrote down. That's literally the first thing I wrote down. Set your personal goals based off of your life, your values, your identity, and not society's expectations. Another way to create your own milestones is to make a bucket list. And I know that seems like cliche and chintzy, but like, what do you want to create, experience, do in life before you leave this life in the physical form? That is a great way to figure out what you specifically want to do, especially if you're a person who is often led by the thoughts of others and you have difficulty figuring out what you want. Just create a bucket list. And it doesn't have to be a bucket list of just like go to Disney World and visit this landmark, which can also be on there. But it could be something like have a kid. And if you can't have a kid, foster a kid. And if you can't have foster a kid, adopt a kid. And if you can't adopt a kid, work with adopted kids. Girl, I don't know, become a big brother, big sister. Like, do something. Figure it out, find your milestone, and then create it. Right? Maybe your milestone is live in another country. Bucket list item, live in another country. Bucket list item, not work in a corporate job. Bucket list item, not work a 9 to 5. Bucket list item, shave off all my hair. Bucket list item, dye my hair purple. Bucket list item, get my teeth fixed. Bucket list item, girl, no, grow a garden. Bucket list item, own a goat. Girl, I don't know what you want to do. Like, figure out by age 50, I want to own a goat. I don't know. Right? That is not on the list of socially acceptable milestones. But guess what? When you close your eyes on the last day you're here physically, you're literally not going to care. Okay? You're going to be smiling from ear to ear because you had your goat. Hello? And somebody else is going to be smiling because they invested in the stock market. That's their checklist. That's not yours. Okay? I'm going to come down and see what some of y'all are saying in the comments. Ooh. Southern Rose Tia D said to Latina, I'm seeing it for myself. My 90-year-old grandma and her 88-year-old sister live with me. Even in good health, it's difficult to care for them. Listen, I am the mother of a son with special needs. Okay. And at the beginning of my 40s, my father fell ill and then passed away right at the beginning of the pandemic. So I was flying back and forth helping to care for him. So I was 100% in the sandwich generation. And I don't put my son's business in the streets, but for all intents and purposes, I'm a nurse. Okay. So was I considering that when I was planning out my little milestones or checklist? No, sometimes life happens. Sometimes life happens. And when they need to bill you, they bill you. Okay. And you would think that life would be easier because people have medical issues and the social systems would set it up so that people could thrive. It is not. What y'all know about our systems? They ain't out here trying to have people thrive. They out here trying to make money. Okay. So that's something that was unplanned. And yet it is part of the story that I live in. Okay. I flipped the page of my life, and right on that page was now become a caretaker in 2 directions, you know, for a parent and for a kid simultaneously. Wait a minute. And that makes it hard to check off some of the boxes because you busy out here surviving, fighting for your life. You fighting for their life, your life, everybody's life. And people are like, but have you hit the milestones? Please be quiet. Cease and desist. Okay. Belinda says, I'm in the process of discovering and rediscovering me. God created me to be. I ask God to give me his dream for my life. That is beautiful, Belinda. If you have not already, go in the information box of this video and download my Who Am I workbook. Okay. You know why? Because when God gives you that dream, you need to be confident in the fact that he made you who you are, and that discover, like you said, and or design her and go create her. Especially if you're a person who has taken those cues from external voices, which many of us have. I'm not saying that in anything except just to acknowledge that it happens. So many of us are told who we are as women, as Black women, as humans. So many of us have so many external voices telling us who we are that it is very likely and very understandable that we can get far into our lives and have no concept of who we actually are, independent of the roles that we play in other people's lives. But it doesn't need to be that way, is what I'm saying. It's literally never too late. The first step of healing is awareness. And when you go from unconscious to conscious and you're like, wait a minute, whose life is this? What am I doing? There you go. That's step 1. Okay. That's step 1. Now what? What you gonna do? Latina says it takes a mindset shift. Look at what you are looking at. Take a break from it. During this time, remember what you really, really want or wanted and then move toward it. That is great. Here's the thing, and that's what I was saying before. Many of us were deprogrammed to want our wants. If you were here at the beginning of the video, I pointed out that children come into the world full of wonder, accessing their imagination in the most rampant way, and we let them. And then, unfortunately, well, some people, the snuffing out of that expansiveness starts in the home because that expansiveness, people are like, that's not going to work. So we got to stop it before you even get into school. But if they put you in the school system, it absolutely was snuffed out. Okay. Because they was like, we can't have you out here being footloose and fancy free about the brain. Who you think you are, Picasso? We need you to work. Okay. We need you to be a nice little worker bee in somebody's system. And so, unfortunately, our school system is based off of previous years where they needed people to be educated to work in fields and in industries like factories and stuff. So the information that our school systems was built on was to crank out a workforce. That means that you come in footloose and fancy free with all of this innovation and all of this direction on what you do and don't want. Because let me ask you a question. How many of y'all know any children that have problems saying yes and saying no and telling you what they do and don't want? You don't know them. Where's the baby that you know that cannot tell you that they do want something and they don't want it? All of us come in with that. We have to be untrained. Okay? We have to be untrained. We have to be domesticated, basically. That sounds horrible, but it's true. We have to be domesticated, okay, so that the workforce can exist. So it is very normal for us to not know what we want, depending on how good the domestication took. That sounds horrible, but it's true. You could be a big adult and being like, I literally don't know what I want. All I know how to do is be in the service of others. And that is even more realistic as a Black person and as a Black woman, because we are really indoctrinated to be in service of others. So, like Latina said, it takes some work to sit down and not just remember what you want, but like Belinda said earlier, you might be discovering that thing for the first time. If you give yourself pauses to think, intentional spaces where you contemplate yourself, you do identity work, you work with a coach, you speak to your pastor, you pray, you fast, you talk to a therapist, you do nature walks, you something, okay? It's not just knowing it's in there. It's giving yourself the internal permission to turn up the volume on your wants and turn down the volume on all the other stuff telling you you don't want that because we need you to be a worker bee. I got that concept from Angela Kanu. She came and spoke to my Pineapple Crowns coaching group last Sunday live about identity work and story work and narrative work and the developing brain. It was amazing. If you want to see that, go to thepineapplecrowns.com. It should be the first link in the information box wherever you're watching, and you can watch the replays. She has 2 different resources in there. And she was talking about, she shared the idea of it's not about turning things off, it's about turning the volume up on you because you are in there. And oftentimes your discontent can be an indication on the fact that that's you trying to show up in your own life. Because like I said earlier, I am starting to wonder if a lot of the discontent that we feel and the grief and the sorrow and all of these things that we feel is because somewhere inside of us, we know that this is not our life. And we are just chipping away, building something that is so misaligned with us. It has nothing to do with God, what God told us to do, what God created us for. You know, I always say that healing to me is a return to wholeness. It's a return to integration. It's a return to the you God intended for you to be. I have learned and I have noticed on my own healing journey that the closer I get to divine alignment, the less grief and sorrow and discontent I feel. I still feel sad about the fact that I kind of veered off the track for a while, but I feel happier. And so, how do you know what you want if you've never turned up the volume on you? You have permission to turn up the volume on you and turn down the volume on social messaging that tells you things that move you in a direction that really just makes you a tool to be of service to others while sacrificing you entirely. Sue said I got my undergrad in my 20s and started law school in 30s at 31. Yeah. Jay Flan says I've been judging myself on an old version of myself because it's familiar. Time to embrace the new. Now is all we have. Sorry. I had to think for a second. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The you that existed before did the best she had with the information that she had. And she did a really good job because she got you here. If you listen to me, I would highly recommend that you practice loving her, giving her grace, and not judging her and beating her up. You know why? Because she did an amazing job, because you are sitting here on a healing journey. She got you to where you are right now. She healed you here. And in the same way that you in the present can hold space for and love and be caring and see her and value what she did to get you to where you are, there is a you in the future that needs to hold space for the current you that may not be working with all the full information, but is still moving us in a direction. That's what I mean by wholeness and integration, right? To get you to the future you that you want to be, the current you has to make decisions in the now, in the same way that the past you did the best she could. So instead of judging the older version of ourselves, I personally have decided that I'm going to love her because she did the best she could with what she had. And she got me to where I am right now, which means she did a hell of a job. She did a hell of a job. Okay. And was it on the timeline that I thought it was supposed to be on? Maybe not. But as we've discussed in this video, whose timeline is that anyway? I release her from perceived and made up systemic timelines that make me feel a need to judge her and treat her poorly when she was out here fighting for our lives and she got us to where I am right now. And so the choice that I have in this moment, because now is all I have. She's gone. It's my turn right here, current me, to make the best choice with the information I have in the now so that future me is set up for success. That's how I look at it. That's how I look at it. Blue Isis says, I put the link to this shirt in the information box. Um, it's not my shirt. It's from T's Comedy. It says, if it involves running, it doesn't involve me. And on the back, it says, I won't be there. It only makes sense. Well, it's hilarious, but it may also make sense because it was something that she said in a video that almost killed me laughing. And she put it on a t-shirt and I needed to have it. Okay. So I put the t-shirt link in the information box already, but I'll look if I could find the video where she said this and I almost peed myself and put that in the information box later. Okay. Because literally, if it involves running, I will not be there. It's not. That's not for me. Okay. If it involves twerking or rolling my hips, I'm there every time. Okay. A little twerk fest, a little body roll, call me. But if it involves running, yeah, count me out. Mm-mm. It doesn't involve me. Anyway. I'm looking at you guys saying, hi, Lori. Hi, Lori. Southern Rose Tia, you saw that video? Listen, she said that thing, and I was like, I know that's right. And then I saw her on one of her videos with the shirt, and I was like, immediately, yes, I have to have it. Okay. So back to the video, you guys. So we're switching up how we look at milestones. When you're creating your own milestones, you have to acknowledge, like I said, that you before got you somewhere. So part of how you create your own new milestones is you create them based off of who you are and not what people tell you you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Okay. Of course, there are things that have like biological timelines. Consider those. And if you miss that biological timeline, grieve it. But also, that doesn't mean that you don't get what you want. I know people now who have missed the biological timeline and decided, like, for example, with kids, to adopt or to foster and those sorts of things. Or even if you can't be the primary caretaker in a child's life, you can be a secondary caretaker. You can offer to, um, what is it? Look into respite programs that offer for you to like help. When I use a respite program for my son, right? So there are programs that will fund people who basically watch people's children. Like you just got to look for it, right? But if you kind of like stagnate and be like, "Oh well, I just missed the mark," then you won't be looking for the way that you can hit your own milestone, right? Recognize growth and emotional maturity points as milestones. That's what I was saying about not dragging the old you, because honestly, you are hitting milestones because your awareness has changed. And in this moment, a choice to be more kind and gracious and loving to the you that you are in every single moment is a milestone. And in my mind, that's a better milestone than did I get a mortgage that feels like an anchor. Because listen, some people will go and get a mortgage. I've had 3 mortgages. Okay. You get a mortgage, these mortgages be tying you all the way down. I mean, yes, it's wonderful. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. There's light and shadow for everything. There are pluses and minuses for everything. But you ain't gonna sit here and lie to me and tell me that in some ways having a building that you have to pay money on feels like a tether on your ankle if you are a free spirit that doesn't want that, but you did it because it's the right thing to do and the milestones of this and the other. There's pluses and there's minuses to these things. Okay. Are you adhering to the checkbox list because you're afraid to be yourself and step outside of the conveyor belt because you don't trust yourself to be able to create a life that is uniquely designed on your own? And so it's safer to stay in the check boxes and then lament the fact that you didn't hit them. Okay. Y'all see I'm sleepwalking today, okay? It's not sleepwalking, it's actually hormonal energy lowness. I have low energy because the hormones are wonky. But y'all know I was gonna hit you with something. You know I like to hit y'all with something. Is it easy to lament that you're a victim of the conveyor belt? Is that easier because you're just afraid to be countercultural? Do you spend your days watching a bunch of countercultural women on the internet and then lamenting? But you know you want it. Okay? Your entire YouTube feed is full of alternative housing people, people who live in other countries, people who homeschool their children, people who homestead, people who have chosen to bump the system and come up with an entirely different timeline for themselves. Are you watching that constantly, but still adhering to the conveyor belt checklist of timeline boxes so that you can stay in that story and tell yourself that you're losing, but it's really because you're afraid? And if that's the case, awareness is the first step of healing. If you know that's what you're doing and that's not the outcome that you want, because that's just going to get you to be where you are, you're going to be in the same place. Okay. You're going to be in the same place next year and the year after that and the year after that. If awareness is the first step and you just said, ouch, listen, like what did that one woman used to say? I need to find her. She used to say it's either an ouch or an amen. Okay. If it's an ouch, welcome. Awareness is the first step of healing. What you going to do about that scaredy cat? What you going to do? You don't have to make big. I was just having a coaching call with somebody recently, and I told them, I was like, you don't have to make big sweeping changes. Make a small change. Make a small change in the direction of the life that you want. I don't care what that small change is, make it. Okay. I don't care. I don't care if you want to be a professional crafter and all you do is after work, you go into Michael's and you just stare at yarn, and you just, subscribe to like a few crafter YouTube channels and you submerge yourself in that. You know why? Because eventually watching people do what you want to do and going into a store and looking at craft, something gonna get you. And you're gonna make another step and another step and another step and another step. And one of these days, you're gonna uniquely designed milestone step your way into the life that you want. The other milestone that I would suggest besides uh, celebrating small victories, celebrating progress, celebrating moving toward the life that you want for yourself, celebrating the fact that you even are creating something new that is yours and yours alone, celebrating growth, celebrating maturity, is celebrating self discovery and self awareness. Those are the milestones that you should be checking off. The fact that you are clearer on who you are today than you were yesterday. The fact that you put down something that wasn't yours to have picked up in the first place. The fact that you chose something that was a yes to you, even though it was a no to social expectations. Maybe you don't want to be married. Maybe you don't want kids. Maybe you want 9 kids. Like I said, maybe you want a goat, boo boo. Maybe you don't want a Tesla and a Tefla. Is that how you say the bag? Tefla? Maybe you don't want a Tesla or a Tefla. Maybe you want a goat. Sorry. Maybe you like pineapples. Girl, what what brings you joy? What feels like your life? What lights you up when you think about it, even at your big age? Do that because it's literally your life. Those are the milestones that you could be hitting. Those are the milestones that are going to feel more fulfilling. The milestones, I hate the word should, but I'm going to say the milestones should aim at joy. A goat is on my spirit, Jay. Okay. I got a goat spirit on me. I don't know what. My mind is moving in slow motion, and for some reason, the goat keep coming up. Okay. Y'all, listen. You could take the girl out the island, but you can't take the island out the girl. I have a goat spirit on me. The goat is going to be the analogy for today. Okay. I don't know what to tell y'all because somebody in here want a goat. Sorry. I have released somebody live or on the replay. Somebody is like, "Oh my God, she talking to me," and somebody is going to go get their goat because the Lord has put a goat on my spirit. Okay, the Lord has put a goat on my spirit. Amen. I don't know what to tell y'all. Um, S. Oliver said, "Yes to this." As someone who's been on that infertility journey, it's amazing how we can be so kind and gracious to others, but won't do that for ourselves. Listen, S. Oliver, first of all, you look amazing in your picture. Super cute. I have decided I'm going to be nice to me. Everything I want to receive from other people, when I catch myself, I'm going to give it to me first. I ain't giving it to you if I ain't giving it to me first. Me first, okay? Put on my mask first. I used to participate in the drag Rushni Olympics. And what I realized is If I hit 25 and I'm dragging 23-year-old Rushni, and I hit 27 and I'm dragging 25-year-old Rushni, and I hit 29 and I'm dragging 27, girl, what are we doing? Because all of us is me. That is a disintegrated way of showing up. And like you pointed out, S. Oliver, we can give it to other people, but not to ourselves. But as I've pointed out in previous videos, if I'm not giving it to me and I'm giving it to you, I'm not giving it to you in the fullest form either, because you are getting a wounded version of it from me. You are getting a performative, wounded version of it from me because I'm empty and I can't pour out of an empty cup. So, what am I pouring on you? No, no. When I was a child, I spoke as a child and I thought as a child. But when I became a woman, I put away childish things. At 48 big years, one thing I am clear on is when I identify that I am not treating myself with loving kindness, I'm talking crazy to myself in my head or outside of my head, which I don't really do anymore. But I'm just saying there are still opportunities for that pre, like that recorder that's playing in our head that is unhealed to try to pop up and say words to me. Okay, absolutely not. I'm going to pour into Rushni so that you guys are all getting the overflow. And let me tell you what, you can tell sometimes when you're getting the overflow from somebody because it just feel more nourishing. They're full and they're pouring onto you from their fullness, not from their vapors, not from their struggle. When you pour on people and you're empty because you've been dragging and judging yourself, but you're trying to like uplift and edify other people, you're pouring wounds all over me. That's not, we don't want it. Like for real. And the world is going to be unkind to me just by social things. Okay. Yes, I want to live in a beautiful land where an aspirational land in the future where we all treat each other well. Am I going to live to see that? I don't know. Am I going to be participate in creating it? Yes. But I'm gonna participate in creating it. The first person I'm gonna create it for is me. Okay. So I'm gonna talk to me nice because I'm gonna talk to me nice and you're gonna talk to me nice too. Because if I let me talk to me crazy, that means there's a chance I might let you talk to me crazy. Absolutely not. Okay. I'm going to experience the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living while I'm here. And part of that goodness is loving kindness and words of affirmation and upliftingness to myself. As Oliver says, she's been on an infertility journey, and that infertility journey could whoop you to and fro. I've never had the infertility journey, but I've had the special needs mom journey. And there's like an alignment, there's like a parallel experience, okay? And some of them voices in your head be saying crazy stuff to you. Them voices be saying crazy stuff to you about how you missing milestones and how come everybody else could do this and you can't do this and how come their body could do this and your body can. Girl, we don't have time for that. Absolutely not. Okay. I arrest. I arrest those thoughts. I arrest those thoughts. I capture those thoughts. And I have taught myself over the years, and I continue to teach myself to replace those thoughts with thoughts of love and gentleness and kindness and patience with myself and affirmation for the me that I was that has gotten me to the me that I am. And the me that I am that is going to get me to the me that I'm going to be. As Oliver went on to say, sometimes what you want, like a child, children, a home, relationship, etc., may not come in the package that you originally imagined. Exactly. It may not come in the timing that you originally imagined. Not may, it won't. Let's just say this. The chance that you are going to have the exact timing for your children, your home, and your relationship, and it's all going to happen underneath that timeline is slim to none. That happens for a very small part of the population. So realistically, none of it is going to happen in that timing. We have influence. We do not have control. We have influence. We do not have control. And when you realize that life allows you to influence outcomes, But ultimately, the result of when and what happens is outside of your control. You can allow yourself to properly grieve, to feel the emotion, to process the emotion, to let go of the parts that are waste of what happened with you, to integrate the parts that are useful for you to learn moving forward, to express yourself about what you felt, and to go create what your life is going to look like. At least that's how I've had to do it. I know you guys remember I told you that Aramaic interpretation of the scripture, which is healed are those who have softened what is rigid within. The rigid adherence to the life milestone checklist is often where the greatest pain is coming from. Soften the list. And like I said, stop listing and start living. This list should come from an internal source. Internal. A knowing on the inside of what your life is going to look like and where you want to live and who you want to partner with and who you want to raise and how you want to raise them and whether you get the goat, Jay. Okay, I'm gonna say and the home you want to live in and the clothes you want to wear and the physical presentation and then creating that and savoring every little moment on the journey because the moments are your life. You're not going toward anything. The you in the future is going to be thankful for the you in the past that did all these things on the milestones. But boo boo, you don't exist in the future and you don't exist in the past. You are sitting here listening to me right now, and that's all there is. Shira says, I feel like finding the drive and overcoming fear of failure. Also, finding out how to overcome that mental block to get where I want to be, or people telling me I can't. I definitely hear you trying to find what brings me joy besides doing for others. Shira, turn down, you see that, or people telling me that I can't? Here's my advice. First step is awareness, which is where you are. Good for you. Celebrate the fact that you've already made progress. Second step, practice turning down the volume on other people's voices. Whoever telling you can't, shh. You have to practice turning down the volume on those people. Okay. What does that look like? Creating boundaries, verbal boundaries, physical boundaries. Don't pick up the phone. Don't spend too much time. You only got 5 minutes to talk to them. You only talk to them once a week, right? Or learning how to internally just not engage. Let people say whatever they want to you. You just smile at them and you walk off and you do what you need to do with your life. And also to counteract it because you need to learn, right? You're saying you need to learn. Turn the volume up on people who tell you that it's possible, who are possibility modeling for you, like me. Find other places on YouTube where you can inundate your brain with the fact that it is possible to create a life that is composed of your own milestones. Turn them down, turn the naysayers down, turn the yay sayers up. Okay? Because one thing about the naysayers is I always say this, check the tree before you pick the fruit. If the naysayers have created something close to what you desire in your life, then you might need to listen to them. But if they have not created anything remotely close to the life that you want, and I don't just mean like they've been married for a long time. I mean they've been happily married because people be out here married and miserable. Okay. If they have not created the fruit, don't pick from that tree. You don't have to tell people you're not picking from their tree. Just, let it be. But I'm just saying, that's what you do. It's not even about drive. You said finding the drive. I offer you reframing that to finding resting in knowing that you can turn down the volume because they're not going to stop telling you what they think is best for you because that is how they are interacting with the world. Let them. Let them. How do you stop dragging yourself? Hopefully, I just answered that. The answer is let's say this Get support. Work with a coach, work with a pastor, work with a therapist. Ask yourself questions. Why am I dragging myself? Why am I being so why? Answer that question for yourself. Why am I talking like this? Who did I hear talk to me like this? How does talking to myself like this get me to the life that I want? What can I do to stop myself from talking like this? Do I want to stop talking to myself like this? Like, answer these questions. You might even want to journal this out if that's how that works for you, right? And then every single day you wake up and you think to yourself, self, we used to do that. We're not going to do it right now. Self, the lady on the internet said, I need to talk nicer to myself. So when you say something bad to yourself in your head, because you're still going to, because that's your normal programming, now you turn up the volume, on the other voice in your head, because both of those are you in there. They're both in there. Okay. The other voice say, hey, wait a minute. We don't talk to each other like that. Right. And over time, when you practice that, like talking to yourself, that like metacognition, this dragging, judgmental, pre-recorded voice that you were hearing starts to get quieter, because you start reparenting yourself with a more conscious and cogent voice who is trying to create the life that you want. You don't have to abandon this voice that's talking crazy to you, because that's your inner child trying to keep you safe. Okay. But you got to integrate them. You got to come to her and be like, girl, I know you're afraid. Because look, let's say you start talking to yourself crazy and you ask yourself, why am I talking to myself crazy? And you're just like, well, I'm talking to myself crazy because I'm afraid. Good. We got it. Okay. Girl, I know you're afraid. This is what we're going to do when we feel fear. This is what I put into place so that we can, not feel as afraid. A good idea is to get more information, get support, yada, yada, yada. Right. Somebody else has done it before you. Pull up a YouTube video, something. This is what we're going to do. I got you. It's just practice. It's practice. It's practice over time. It's practice. It's practice. It's practice over time. And over time, one thing, the more cogent you starts coming up higher, the more cogent you starts being the one driving, the more cogent you, the more matured you, the one that you're choosing to create, when you see the other one starts to integrate. You don't abandon the you that's afraid, the you that was judging you, the you in the past, the you that thought you were supposed to hit the milestones. You don't abandon her. Girl, that's you. Okay? You don't want to be disparate, part of you here and part of you over there. Everybody, let's come together and let's all create the life that we want. The scared me, the joyous me, the one who's afraid that she didn't hit the timelines, the one who intellectually understands exactly what Rushni's saying. All of us. The one who still wants kids, the one who decides she don't want them, everybody. And you know who you listen to? You're welcome, Shira. You know who you listen to? The one who's taking you toward the life you want. When all of that stuff is going on in your head and you got to pick who you're listening to, listen to the divine, because she's going to be the one that's going to get you toward the life that you are trying to create, not the life that everybody else wants you to have. She's not going to be leading you toward that. There might be a scared voice telling you to retreat. There might be your mama's pre-recorded voice dragging you for filth. There might be your teacher's voice from third grade who told you weren't going to be enough. Don't listen to them. Turn up the volume on the one that's in there, that's listening to a video on the internet right now, who wants something different, who wants something that she can create. Okay, realistic life things that nobody tells you about. Maybe you want to take a gap year. Maybe you don't want to work a 9-to-5 job. Maybe you don't want the career. Maybe you don't want to be in that career. Maybe you want to do something different. Maybe there is a new career that has come up since you went to school, and because the internet and technology, and you want to do something entirely different. Maybe you want to live off the land. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe you hate being an entrepreneur and you actually want to go to school and just get a 9-to-5. Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you want to travel all over the place and not quote unquote settle down. Maybe you've been traveling all over the place and you're tired of it. Okay. But everybody said you're supposed to want to travel and you don't want to. Okay. You want to just create a life that you love at the house and you want to settle all the way down. You want a clothesline and some chickens. Okay. CJ, I didn't say a goat, but I just said it. Maybe you want to be married, but not right now, maybe later. Maybe you want an atypical marriage. Maybe you and your spouse live across the street from each other in two different houses. Maybe you guys live in condos on two different floors. And yes, I know people that do that. I'm not making that up. I know people that do that. Okay. Maybe, maybe people, you guys, you know, go back and forth to each other. Maybe you want children. Maybe you don't want any children. Maybe you want 17 children. Maybe you want to work at a place where you help children. Maybe you want pets. Maybe you want horses. You want frogs. You want bunny rabbits. Okay? You want goats. Okay? I wrote all this stuff down. Maybe you want to adopt. Maybe you want to have foster kids. Maybe you're not going to finish college until your 30s because you don't know what you want to do. So when you graduate from high school, you're going to go work. Spend 3 years 2 to 3 years at pop trying different industries and seeing what you want to do. And you come out and you realize, oh, I want to be an electrician. Oh, I really like makeup. I want to go to hair school. I thought I wanted to be a computer programmer or a manager, but I actually want to be a beautician. I want to be a lash tech. Okay. Maybe there's some hobbies and projects that you've been playing around with in the back of your mind, but you have never started them. Maybe you want to learn how to crochet. You want the garden, woodworking. Like I said, all makeup. Girl, I don't know. Maybe you prioritize experiences over material possessions. Maybe you are a person like me who becomes focused on personal growth, self improvement, and destroying generational patterns. Okay. Because that's how I'm living, right? That was not on the checklist. But, there's an Instagram quote that goes around that I love. It says, it ran in my family until it ran into me. That's part of my milestones. To me, that's part of whether or not I'm doing my life right. Because it's up to me to bump me up against my own checklist. Maybe you volunteer. Maybe you're like big in your community. Maybe you're in politics. Maybe you become a teacher. Maybe you become an aide at school. Maybe you have a heart toward kids with special needs. Maybe you go volunteer in the NICU. Maybe you are more about balance in your world and elevating life advancement over career advancement. Maybe you're a minimalist. So you never actually get into all of the like big house, cars, and all this kind of stuff. Maybe you decide to live alternatively. You have a tiny house, you live on a boat, you live on a houseboat, you live in a yurt, you live in a van, you live in a converted bus. You live in a commune, like people who do the tiny houses all around, and there's like a communal area in the center. Maybe you live in a communal house. Girl, I don't know. Maybe you focus your life on cultivating deep friendships, platonic relationships, and your relationships are not centered on the romantic, which is, listen, that thing right there is mind blowing to so many women because so many women, like myself, we were trained from childhood that our entire life was supposed to circle around getting a man to be our pick us and then pop out some kids for him. And it is like mind blowing and actually quite new and innovative to be like, wait, you don't have to do that. No, you don't. You don't. Right. Maybe there are negative things in your family that you want to stop. Like maybe there's like a pattern of addiction, a pattern of abuse, a pattern of neglect, a pattern of poverty, a pattern of something that in your life, the milestones that you have adhere to wanting that to not be your family's story and lineage anymore. Maybe you want to learn a different language, go live somewhere else, or you want to learn an instrument and teach people. Maybe you like sharing your knowledge, so your life is about that. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to become an artist and paint, dance, sing. Okay. In my head, I have this like childhood dream that I thought I was going to be a model. And I had put that down a really long time, you guys. And then last year, I think I was walking around in Target and I saw those big placards of the like models in Target. And one of them looked like me, except with grayer hair. And I put it on Instagram and people were like, that's not you. And I was like, it's not me, but also new goal unlocked. Okay. Like I have this like underlying goal in my head to get in a Target modeling campaign and have a giant placard of me in one of the stores because Child Rushni thought she was going to be a model, and Child Rushni thought that time had passed, but it hasn't. And so that's something that's on my list of things I want to do. Maybe you want to become a mentor. Maybe you want to become financially independent. Maybe you want to buck the system entirely, live off grid and live off the land. Okay. Anyway, hopefully this video has helped you to reframe if you feel like you've missed life's milestones, if you feel like you're left behind. Jay said she's been practicing 1 Corinthians 13 on herself. Am I kind? Am I patient? Exactly. I literally just wrote about this. I'm gonna pull it up. I wrote about this on my own personal Facebook page. So I'm glad you said it because I'm just gonna pull up what I wrote and tell you guys. It was a couple days ago, so it should not be that far down. Doody doo doo. This is what I wrote on Facebook 3 days ago. My friend pointed out that if you have a distorted definition of love, then you cannot give and receive it beyond that distortion. To heal, you must anchor your definition of love to something and bump everything up against that anchored definition. Otherwise, you will keep spinning in your distortion, right? Because I'm going to add on to it. It's called deception because you don't know you're deceived. It's called a distortion because you don't know that you're seeing it from a distorted lens. And so for me, the anchor is God's definition of love. I'm not saying for you the anchor has to be God's definition of love, but what I'm saying is if you understand that you're working from a wounded space, anchor it to something because you're not going to be an appropriate anchor. And I put, this is the post, with that in mind, in my current season, if it's impatient, unkind, envious, boastful, proud, dishonoring, self seeking, easily angered, keeps records of wrong, delights in evil, rejects the truth, harms, is not reliable, despairs, or makes no effort, then I finally understand that that is not love. I'm not going to lie, it took 48 years to grasp that fully in my bones, like in my cells, you guys. If it's not that, and if it's not aiming at anything like that, it is not love. And then I put stay safe out there because that's my favorite way to end it. Stay safe out there. So, yeah, and the reason why I wrote that was because I understood that I was operating from my own distortion, right? I was observing other people who seemed to be operating from a distorted definition of love, complaining about the fact that they could not receive the thing that they wanted. But in my mind, their definition was distorted. So there were all these people around them trying to give it to them, give them patience, give them kindness, give them all these things. And they were like, I can't have it. And then it dawned on me, okay, well, am I doing that? So thank you for bringing that up, Jay, because me too. Okay. Am I going to do a video about Jay? What is Jay, Black ADHD coach? Am I going to do a video about Jay? What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. Anyway, all right, you guys, I am way over time. Comment if you're still here and let me know and I'll respond. If you would like to work with me, thepineapplecrowns.com. The link is the top link in the information box on whatever platform you are looking at me on. My coaching calendar is the second link, I believe. The next notable date is my coaching membership will close on August 15th as we move toward the first day of school for my son and my son's rescheduled surgery date, which is the end of this month. August 18th, I have the live accountability call for all previous planning retreat participants. I am excited to see you ladies. And right after that, on August 18th, I have the live coaching call for all of the Pineapple Crowns coaching membership learners. Okay. I'm also adding another guest coach resource to the Mother Wound course from Danny Ellison, who is a reparenting coach and aqueduct specialist, all about narcissistic abuse and healing the mother wound, which is her specialty. So if you are interested, become a member at thepineapplecrowns.com. And I hope to see you there. Thanks, Southern Rose, Tia D. Bye, Latina. Stay safe out there, you guys. And don't forget, the milestones are yours to make. The milestones are yours to make. Every single time you think, I haven't hit it, ask yourself if that's even yours. Ask yourself if that's even yours. Bye, Jay. Hopefully you find a goat. Be well. Just, oh my God. Yeah, pray for the saints. Be encouraged, y'all. Here's a pineapple. Bye, y'all. Oh boy.